Hey, how are you all? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. My name is Brooke Jarrett, and I'm a doctoral candidate in the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you today about my dissertation research on chatbots, their future as a digital mental health intervention, and the importance of therapeutic alliance. If you want to hear more about public mental health and infectious disease epidemiology, please come follow me on Twitter. I talk a lot about measurement, which is the topic of my talk today. I'm going to introduce to you a new tool that I'll be using to develop a survey that can measure the quality and extent of therapeutic alliance that a person can get from a mental health chatbot. So first, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. What is a chatbot for mental health? So a chatbot is a piece of software that you can text back and forth with. So let me give you an example here. So this is a conversation that I had with a chatbot recently. And at the top, you can see that I texted the chatbot that I was really nervous about this presentation because there'd be so many people watching. Cross your fingers. And instead of a friend responding or another human, it's a computer on the other end that's analyzing my natural language that I've inputted here and sending back a best response that it bases off of an algorithm that rates the probability that the response that it's chosen will be appropriate for what I've inputted. And it worked pretty well, actually. So the bot's telling me that everything's going to go well and tells me, have some faith in yourself. So increasingly, bots are being used in mental health applications to support people with depression, anxiety, and other conditions. The idea of having a computer act as a therapist isn't new at all. So way back in the 1960s, Joseph Weizenbaum designed a software program to be a mental health therapist called ELIZA. He coded it using concepts from Rogerian psychology, which he was counting on to be pretty algorithmic. And you can see some of the basics of that algorithm here on the right. Now, I've been 2 decades of counseling, and the stereotype about therapy being somewhat of a flow diagram, if this, then this, is pretty true. It's great for computer programs because it's easy and logical, but it's bad for just the person going to the therapy because it feels robotic in a way. So bad therapy, bad talk therapy, a lot of times sounds a little bit like, yes, I see. Well, that's very interesting. Tell me more. And Rogerian psychology is all about restating a patient's words to help them feel heard and to help them to discover themselves by using those words and seeing them when you're saying them, which makes it pretty easy for a computer to turn it into a convincing conversation. You can imagine a client might say, I'm feeling really down about myself. And the chatbot could respond, tell me more about why you said, I'm feeling down about myself. You really just take exactly what the client inputted and you tag on, tell me more about why you said X, Y, and Z. But that interaction of repeating someone's words is quite critical, and I'll tell you why. So, therapeutic alliance, having a therapist hear their client, really, really hear them, helps develop this term, therapeutic alliance. And some theorists, such as Borden back in 1979, said that this alliance was critical for developing trust, the relationship, and ultimately having the client and the therapist make progress for the client. Therapeutic alliance consists of 3 things. The first is that you have to agree on your goals. The second is that the therapist provides tasks or asks questions to the client that progresses those goals. And the third is the development of a bond. And this is one measure or a metric that we have that we can use to evaluate whether a real life therapist is doing well with their work. Have they established this therapeutic alliance with their clients? So in business, there's a saying that what's not measured isn't done. And in the academic world and in epidemiology specifically, which is where I'm coming from, we say that what is measured does not exist. So it's important to measure therapeutic alliance. To measure a subjective experience, Academics like to use long surveys, just asking questions to the person. Yes, no, often, not often, I strongly agree, I strongly disagree. And many times they're going to reuse a set of questions that was developed by other people long ago and validated for use in the population that you're studying. So there's just one set of questions that gets used over and over again. And that's usually because it's easiest to use a set of questions that work, and also because then you can compare your results to other results from other studies. So you can use that same measure and say, well, we found this using this set of questions, and those people found this using the same set of questions. So now I can make a more direct comparison, potentially. Those are some of the benefits of using the same questions. And if you want to measure therapeutic alliance, there's great news. There's plenty of questions for that. Back in 1989, Horvath and their colleagues developed a survey to measure therapeutic alliance between a client and their therapist. And you can see here such questions as, I believe my therapist likes me, or my therapist and I really understand one another. Now, fast forward 30 years later to today, and we have chatbots like WISA, Wobot, and Replica providing mental health support. And early studies about these chatbots hint that therapeutic alliance might also be important for these relationships to be effective too. So the epidemiologist in me says, we need to measure that. How could we go about that? Can we just swap in the word chatbot for therapist in that survey that we saw before? Just like this? Would that measure the same thing? For some people, this would be sufficient and is a quick, dirty way to get the job done using a validated set of questions for a specific population. And in a lot of cases, that would be fine. You got to get done what you got to get done, and this is like an established scale. But we know that chatbots and real-life human therapists are very different from one another, and humans have different relationships with other humans than they do with machines. So a new set of questions might actually be needed. And how would we go about doing that? Well, typically you develop questions by consulting experts. For instance, for developing a scale like this, we might go to human computer science experts or human computer interaction experts. And then you would put together some questions and run those questions by focus group discussions with people that you think are going to be using the survey, so chatbot users. And then you would build consensus using a fancy process called the Delphi process, which is just a process where you try to get everyone to agree. But I kind of believe that that research and a lot of research like it is a bit dull. And in the end, most people who participate aren't really enjoying themselves. It's a bit like pulling teeth. And I think we ask too many questions, first of all. And second, the questions that we end up asking people end up pathologizing mental health issues instead. Instead of asking, how often did you feel positive over the last week? We will usually ask, how often did you feel down or depressed over the last week? And the bottom line is that I feel we need more participant input sooner and in a way that's fun. And while I was reading this fantastic book titled Bit by Bit, Social Research in the Digital Age, actually, I have it here, I'm a fan, by Dr. Matthew Salganik, I found my solution, which I'm gonna share with you today. And this is a tool that Dr. Salganik and Dr. Levy have developed. I'm just a fan, and I wanna make sure that other people know that it exists because I think it's gonna be way more fun for our research participants. And also it's a new analytical skill that that different people can learn. So it is called Wiki Surveys. A Wiki survey answers the question, what if a survey could be constructed by respondents themselves? Instead of having experts go ahead and pick questions in the ivory tower to measure therapeutic alliance and then going to focus group discussions, a Wiki survey is both a quantitative and a qualitative method for crowdsourcing a survey instead. So the survey method allows participants to contribute as much data as they would like, which is similar to Wikipedia, where a small subset of people have contributed a majority of the content, but everyone else is still welcome to add, edit, or delete as they'd like, and then writing their own answer choices. So the Wiki survey allows you to contribute as much as you'd like and vote on other members' contributions with an easy-to-use interface. So essentially, it's forced rank a four-strength survey, which is commonly used in economics, and combined with the ability to add your own answers to those four-strength experiments. So I'm going to show you how we will use this to develop our survey. So let's see, I'm going to have to share a different screen. And essentially, what I've done is you can see that here is the website, allorideas.org. And I've created a survey just for us. And the question that you pose is, in what ways does your relationship with your chatbot support or not support your mental health? And now what you'll see down here on the bottom, or in the middle here, the left and right, are two options. And the goal is for you to ask the participants to answer these questions, and not just answer the questions, actually, to vote on which question which statement they believe answers the question best. So as someone who's doing research on this, you would set this question, and you can also see that there are 36 ideas. The 36 ideas that I input are actually from the Therapeutic Alliance scale for humans that I showed you earlier. And I've just replaced those words with chatbot instead of therapist. So on the left, the option is the things I talk with my chatbot about in my therapeutic conversations gives me new ways of looking at my problems. The things that my chatbot asks me to do don't make sense. So I would endorse one of these in response to this question. Let's say that I vote on, I'm not having a great therapeutic alliance with my chatbot, I might click on this one. After that, you can see that the two options drop down and new options are presented to me. So the new options are, my chatbot and I are working towards mutually agreed upon goals. The things that my chatbot asks me to do don't make sense. So now I might say, actually, it's true that the things that my chatbot asks me to do don't make sense, but I feel more strongly that my chatbot and I are working towards mutually agreed upon goals. So I might click on that. The next set of options that are presented to me say, I wish that my chatbot and I could clarify the purpose of our therapeutic conversations. And the other option is, I have a feeling that if I do or say the wrong things, my chatbot will stop talking with me. So I might decide, actually, I don't have goals with for my therapeutic conversations with my chatbot, or perhaps I'm very clear on what the purpose of they are, and I actually don't agree with this, and I don't agree with this. I could click, I can't decide. And this might say, well, I like both ideas. I think both ideas are the same. I don't like either idea. I don't know enough about these different options, or I just can't decide. As an administrator who is putting the survey out into the world, you can actually force people to pick between these two things and not include an I can't decide button. You can also add your own idea here. I might say, well, actually, my chatbot supports my mental health because it's always there for me. And I'll submit this. And what that does is it submits it for review. And as the administrator, I can go in and manage this page and say, great, all of these questions are questions that I put in as the source. These are seed questions. And then down somewhere should be a place for me to activate this new idea. So it's not currently showing up. Oh, there it is. My chatbot supports my mental health because it's always there for me. And you can see that instead of being a seed, this is a user-generated option. And what's interesting is if you look at these scores, you can see that there are things that were selected in the forced rank, and then there are also things that weren't selected in the forced rank. There are also scores that say 50 because they haven't been voted on, or they've been voted on equally, they've been equally chosen as many times as they've been equally not chosen. So this is currently deactivated. I'm going to click it and activate it. And now this means that when I go to cast my vote, there are now 37 ideas. So there are users that are contributing to designing the survey, and now their ideas can also be voted on during this forced ranked activity. And so someone can go through and they could click once and be done with the survey, Someone could go through and click 100 times and still be part of the survey. And you can view the results. You can also, as an administrator, hide this part, and you can show which ones are the most popular and the ones that are most endorsed. In terms of survey design, what this means is you're asking question, this is the question, this is your STEM question. This is the thing that you're trying to measure. I'm writing the way that your chatbot supports or not supports you as a way of talking about therapeutic alliance. And so the different options down here in blue represent what the items on that scale or the questions on that scale might be. So now from here, you might say, well, let's see our results. My chatbot and I are working towards mutually agreed upon goals. This is a really commonly endorsed item. So that means that it's both worded in a way that's appropriate. It's also a prevalent action that's happening in this population. And so you might say that that's one of the questions on your survey, and you could have respondents say that they agree or they disagree to that question, or extensive agreement, such as strongly disagree, strongly agree. So that's how the all our ideas work. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. And what I'd like for you to see here is that I have the URL for you to go ahead and navigate to if you'd like. It's www.allrideas.org/DIMH2020. So if you're eager to submit your own data, if you want to play with the interface of it, you can do so through this link. And I encourage you to try it out, share it with your friends and colleagues, and think a little bit about how this method could be applied to your own work. How could you gather data? How could you have people rank things for the research that you're doing, for the design work that you're doing, for the any of the programming that you're doing, any of the art that you're doing even, to see, how it might apply to the work that you're doing. So if you're interested in how to analyze these types of data for yourself, you can check out Dr. Salganik and Levy's paper in PLOS One titled Wiki Surveys, Open and Quantifiable Social Data Collection. I think it's a really interesting tool. Obviously, I'm presenting on it, and I encourage you to check it out. So thank you again for listening to my talk about how to measure how chatbots might provide therapeutic alliance. I would love to answer your questions, so please tweet your questions to me, and I hope to see you around soon in this virtual conference. So, bye.